Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, that was a big old bucket of butts. That was ah man, that sucks. I'm Graham Mosimann. Welcome to Game Over Edmonton, your post-game show where we dive into the good, the bad, the deeply weird from a Stanley Cup Final rematch that unfortunately did not go the Oily Boys' way, as we have a final score of 6-3 in favor of the Florida Panthers. Three third period goals from Florida, also known as Pitbull Land. Three second period goals from the Oilers, and then a pair from Florida to start off this game. It was one of, honestly, if you were looking at this as just like as a fan and a non Oilers partisan, it's hard to say that this was anything but an extremely wonderful and rad entertaining hockey game. And like that's the thing that I kind of want to hold my heart to, is that it was cool and fun, even though, still kind of sad. If you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions on this particular game, let us know in the chat. We'll be going through that the entire show. So anything that you want to get off your chest or things you thought, please love to hear from you. Pop it up in the chat or let us know via Twitter as well. Before we officially get the show on the go, though, I do want to tell you all about Hyperdrive Hockey. It's a brand new show, the flagship podcast from our pals over in Montreal. It is the showcase show we have on the Game Over Network, where Max, Daphne, and Kevin, they go into all the kind of cool minutia of the NHL. They dive into in a really cool way with a decidedly different perspective. Because I'm going to guess if you're watching this show or listening to it, you are probably from or around little old Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Now, we love our hockey perspectives here, but it is really nice to hear something a lot different, and that is what Hyperdrive Hockey provides. They'll have a brand new show coming out tomorrow, and then another one on Friday, where I am sure they're going to dive into this game, plus all the other happenings around the NHL, like what's going on in New York with both the Rangers and the Sabres, New York State, just being buckets of butts. Who knows? We'll find out when their new show comes out tomorrow. But as for today, oh man, that one kind of stings. I think if you were to, we're gonna go check in really quick with our pal, the Deserve-O-meter, or the Deserve to Win O-meter. It's stupid. It's very silly. If you take a look at moneypuck.com and the Deserve to Win O-meter, this one, the Oilers were looking pretty good going into this one. If you want to break it all down, oh hey, you know what? I'm not gonna lie about this. Florida listed as a 60% deserve to win over the Oilers. Unsure of that one though, because really this is a great showing from the Edmonton Oilers, with the exception of probably the goaltending in a couple of spots here or there. I thought the Oilers had really done the same thing that they've done over this last 5-game win streak that has now unfortunately come to an end, to help them be successful. Like, this looks, for all intents and purposes, like the team we did see in the Stanley Cup Final. And just, we know they have the ability to just crush their way through, folks. And that's exactly what we saw tonight. The first period was a bit of a weird one. It almost felt like the teams were like a little tentative in a way, as the very first goal, which was, shucks, that's shorthanded goals. Shorthanded goals are always a little bit more painful than regular ones. For a shorty from Jesper Boqvist, a one-time top 40 pick of the New Jersey Devils. I don't know if it's just something about the Boqvists, but some weird in the water with those two particular players, as Florida opens the scoring with an unassisted shorthanded goal. Zach Hyman continues his absolute tear over the past number of games. 7 goals over his last 6 games, as he picks up his 9th of the year, assisted by Connor McDavid and Evan Bouchard to tie it up. Then Matthew Tkachuk on the power play goes ahead for Florida. That goal assisted by Carter Verhaeghe and Sam Reinhart. Now, the, the refereeing in this particular game, like we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the reffing. Frankly, it's an uninteresting and boring way to talk about hockey, being like, the refs didn't like my team, so my team didn't win. Meh. I will say it was pretty goofy for Kelly Sutherland to give Darnell Nurse a penalty and then tee him up and give him the silly, over exaggerated, unsportsmanlike contact. I'm Kelly Sutherland, kind of penalty. Should Darnell Nurse have maybe shut the hell up and just gone to the box? Okay, probably yes. But the Oilers are not, I've not been like I don't think you can call this like a whiny team and always like looking at the refs for calls, always complaining for calls. I know other fan bases really like to crack on us for being like complaining that Connor McDavid doesn't get enough calls, which he doesn't. He's the best player in hockey, and they probably call like maybe an eighth of what's actually put on the ice that foul him. The fact that Connor McDavid almost had a clear run and breakaway with 2 minutes left and gets mobbed by two Florida Panthers, and then no call happens. Again, unfortunately, this is just something as Oilers fans we have to expect, because if they actually did call the rule book, as they should, against Connor McDavid, we'd be on the power play constantly. Maybe it's a sign of a silly, dumb league that they don't do that. Follow their own rules, but hey, that's a story for another time, although we do pop into the chat as our pal from Game Over Calgary, Conrad, kicks in and says, I know someone who disagrees about the fact that the Oilers don't get enough penalties. It's me. It's him. Well, you're, again, you maybe just slightly, Conrad, have your Flames-colored glasses on this one. Maybe. Possibly. I mean, I also am literally wearing blue tinted glasses right now, so that might be my fault. Although, Conrad, you can't get too mad at me, as I am wearing a Calgary Wranglers hat. Just a slight nod to my time that I spent in that wonderful fair city. Kelly Sutherland teeing up Darnell Nurse felt really kind of juvenile and unprofessional. Frankly, I've seen more adult refereeing at the double and triple A level in U15 leagues. So, bit of a bummer to see that from someone who's been in the league for so long, but I think we can pretty fairly agree that just because you are in the NHL as an official for a long time doesn't mean you're actually good at your job in a lot of ways. So that was a bit of a goofy run as Darnell Nurse takes on the first period, and has now 4 minutes to sit in the box, while the Panthers can go get to work with what is one of the most lethal collections of players you can absolutely find. And for the first period, I think for the Oilers' standpoint, getting out of it 2-1 is really not. I don't think you can complain too much about that. Florida is still the class of the East. I think it's all. I don't see a world where they don't come out of the Eastern Conference. Maybe getting stopped by Carolina, maybe New Jersey, but like I don't think those teams have the depth of playoff experience and the physical ability to beat you down like Florida can. So Florida still being the one I think to come through in the East. Conrad popping up in the chat one more time. So I'd argue that calling the unsportsmanlike is actually calling the game to the rule book, but that's my Flames 2 cents. And look, the thing with that one is you with how Kelly Sutherland behaved. I think you're rewarding bad behavior with more bad behavior, and it makes you look like a chump. And Kelly Sutherland very much looked like a chump in this one. Players argue all the time. The call was kind of iffy in the first place, and Darnell Nurse was clearly upset about it. We're going to talk about Darnell Nurse in the second period of the show, because it was probably his weakest game in a very, 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 very long time, which is such a cool sentence to say now. When it comes to calling, the rule book of a player like chirping back at you, I would love to know exactly what he said that crossed the line. in this official's mind. I would love to find out, because if something can make you light your hair on fire and do this and get all crazy with your calls, it must have been something either truly egregious or you're just a soft sad boy. So we'll find out. Also, when it comes to calling the rule book, again, we all know this, Conrad. Connor McDavid has one set of rules, and that most of them don't apply to any player fouling him. And then the rest of the NHL has another one, which is, again, bafflingly silly, especially when you're in a league that's trying to sell your stars. I am biased. Look at the jerseys behind me, and also look at what show I'm hosting on. So we're gonna pause the first period there. We're gonna get into the next period, and I'm really just like kind of going period by period with this game, and because the second period is where things started to get just absolute silly bonker town in the best way possible, in the true wonderful hallmark of Oilers hockey, where if you wait for it, things are gonna get stupid. That is exactly what happened, and we are going to talk about Darnell Nurse. If you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions about this game, we'd love to hear it, so please pop them in the chat. Let us know over on Twitter. If you enjoy this show, please give it a like. If you really like it, subscribe. And if you love it and want to get different post-game coverage from some folks here in Edmonton who love the game as much as you do as a fan, who aren't going to spend 4 hours covering the whole thing, who aren't going to listen to the same silly 8 callers over and over and over again, repeating the same gunk game after game after game when they're loaded on red wine on the radio. If you like what we're doing here, it would mean so much if you would subscribe or let us leave a review or let a friend know about some of the coverage we have here over on the network. We will talk about Darnell Nurse very shortly, but before we do, we have merch, and we have a chance for you to get in some very, very, very cool, very, very silly stuff. We have a dog bandana now, which absolutely rocks. There's a Game Over mouse pad. We have a bunch of different hoodies, mugs. I'm a big fan of the goalie design myself. It's all very silly and very fun, and I don't want you to miss out on some very cool stuff. So if you make your way over to GameOverNetwork.com, you can find all of our merch there. As well, if you go grab the code GO Holidays, that'll be good for 15% off your order. I know the government has ordered Canada Post back, but we're still probably not quite at the point where everything's going to get out in time, but that's okay. Late Christmas presents are the best presents. And because you get a little extra surprise just a couple of days later than maybe you wanted to. That code is good until December 25th only, though, so go get your stuff now. All right, we're going to move into the second period of this little show, as well as the second period of our coverage here over on Game Over Edmonton. Talk about Darnell Nurse. Darnell Nurse has had some of the best hockey that he has played since Oscar Klefbom was on this team. And that's going back probably to 2016 when like right before the big crazy contract kind of kicked in. Now, a few things we always got to remember with that deal. It was Seth Jones and being traded and signing with Chicago for a truly obscene amount of money that really started to tilt the market. You also had Zach Werenski at the exact same time, similar level of quality of defenseman at the time, who signed that crazy big deal to stay in Columbus. How have those deals not aged awesomely? Nah, they really, really, really haven't. But we are starting to get at the point, especially with the cap going up as much as $4 million next year, where Darnell Nurse could really start to become not a bargain player, but definitely a player that's probably suiting his value and what he brings. And the last number of games, you have to really squint to find plays where he hasn't been awesome. And unfortunately, that really wasn't the case tonight. It was a little bit more of old Darnell that we saw. A little softer in the defensive zone, not using his size as well as he has, not using his really tremendous skating ability to push people off the pucks. And that's the one thing of Darnell Nurse with this now over 5-game win streak, and really what we've seen since he came back from Ryan Reeves being hurting him. He has played the game in such in a way that enhances his physical abilities. Whereas for the longest time, he kind of felt like he was sort of big for big's sake. We saw a little bit of big for big's sake from Darnell tonight, and yeah, things definitely get clouded when you take a couple of silly penalties and then get that unsportsmanlike, even if it was a dumb call at the end of the first period. You saw Darnell start to flail around a little bit more. His position was a little bit more off, and I'm wondering if a big part of that kind of comes with all the big emotions that come for this team. I mean, they won't admit it in the media, but just think about it. They're human beings. What should have been the absolute zenith moment of their career in winning a cup, being the first team in decades to bring it back to Canada, you come within one goal and you just fall short after one of the most unlikely and incredible comebacks we've ever seen in a 7-game series. The Amazon show comes out, you get to relive it again then. You have the horrible start to this season, reliving the same bunch of gunk over again. And now Florida's back in your town. So I kind of wonder if a lot of the players that were here were gripping their sticks a little bit tighter tonight. And that's kind of why Darnell wasn't maybe necessarily on his best that we've seen. Who can really say? Sometimes you just have a bad game, and that's that. But I don't think this one rougher game is going to be indicative of what we're going to see more from the Darnell Nurse Brett Kulak pairing. I think what we've had in the last 10-ish games is much more of the real thing of what those guys can do. Now, the Oilers still definitely know you need to go pick up a right-handed defenseman somewhere, but to kind of help Darnell Nurse out a little bit. But I'm okay with what happened. I mean, I really, especially on that last goal of the second period where Gustav Forsling potted his one to pull Florida within one goal. Did love where anyone was positioned defensively, but that could have been a bit of a byproduct of a truly insane third or second period. 6 minutes in, Zach Hyman from Connor and Leon pots his 10th of the year. Connor Brown gets his 6th of the year. Hell yeah, Connor Brown. People that still want to crack on this team for that signing because he didn't score. He scored two goals, I think, all of last regular season. Connor Brown's turned into such an important part of this team and such a consistently producing kind of sandpaper, go chew on this stick, get something done kind of player. Love what we've seen from Connor Brown. Nice for Corey Perry to pick up an assist on that one as well. And then the Leon spot, Oilers power play. What are you going to do? You can't stop it. He's too good. Leon Draisaitl putting together a Hart Trophy-like season. This is probably a segment for the overtime part of the show. If you have early Hart Trophy picks, let us know in the chat right now. Would love to see who you're thinking. You got to think Leon Draisaitl is on that list pretty highly. Got to be up there with probably Kirill Kaprizov and Jack Eichel, I think you could argue. But we'll dive into that a little bit more in overtime. So this period was so weird, as in the space of just over 3 minutes and 24 seconds, this game goes from being a Florida 2-1 lead to an Edmonton 4-2, and that should have been kind of it. Like it really should have. The Oilers should have locked things down defensively much better than they did in the third period. Gonna park some time to talk about Zach Hyman coming up in the third period and how goofy Team Canada looks at the moment. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about Game On. It is a series of shows that will be re-debuting across the network coming up in the new year. There'll be a daily podcast where our hosts in all of our different markets are just going to kind of get you up to speed and up to date on pretty much everything across the team's world. I am the regular host of Game On Hockey. That's had to take a pause for a little bit just because there's been a lot going on. I started a new job. We're figuring some stuff out. We're going to relaunch it coming up in the new year, and you're going to have a daily podcast under 10 minutes to fill the void of whatever team you love to follow. Or if you just want to get a quick run around of the NHL, you can get that one on our kind of big main show of Game On Hockey. So look for those to re-debut coming up in the new year. All right. With that, now is the moment. Let's talk about Zachary friggin' Hyman. Because, oh my God, I love that man so much. He's perfect. He's rough start to the season. Gonna still argue, and I will hold this as true as it can be until someone or some fact person tells me otherwise, that he was definitely hurt in some way, shape, or form. Or heck, maybe he was having a dad hangover because he had a new kid at the start of the season. Who knows? Who can say? But Zach Hyman's back. 2 goals this game. Should have had a hat trick. Came within inches twice of having a hat trick of some sort in this game. And unfortunately, by the weird, whatever strange magics Sergei Bobrovsky has concocted around himself to create some sort of force field that keeps the puck away from the net or out of the net when it really needs to be, Zach Hyman doesn't get his hat trick, which is absolute bummer town. Also for my fantasy team, because no fantasy team wants to do its best. But Zach Hyman playing at the level he is now, I do wonder how much of it is maybe a little bit fueled by spite, given the fact that he wasn't on the Team Canada Four Nations Face-Off roster. And I mean, look, there is one injury to that team in the forward core, and Zach Hyman's on the team. Like that's just what'll happen, without a doubt. Someone's probably going to get hurt. We're probably going to see Zach Hyman at this tournament, but it still baffles me that he wasn't named to the team, especially given his history with Connor McDavid. That's the only reason. The only reason Brandon Hagel is on this team is because John Cooper's the coach, and he likes to put him with Anthony Cirelli. That's it. That's why Brandon Hagel's there. And is Brandon Hagel awesome? Sure. Is he 54 goals scoring awesome? I kind of doubt it. Because Zach Hyman has really, really, really turned himself on fire and is playing the way that makes him successful. That very first goal he had, where he kind of trails in, where Connor rushes, Evan Bouchard gets the late puck, and then passes across to Zach to just rifle it in. Beautiful, and a perfect example of how this team, through the course of just one rush, has the ability to come at you in waves. Now, Nico Mikkola ties this game up 6.5 minutes or so in. I mean, the guy's got 3 goals on the year. It was assisted by Anton Lundell and Eetu Luosterainen. Cool. It wasn't the worst goal I've ever seen. I mean, it's a dumb goal, especially when you fire it in on the back of someone's mask. Truly strange. I don't know how mad you get about that one. I'm sure some goaltending consultant somewhere that has like a show will be like, "There's why Stuart Skinner's bad. It's because his head was tilted wrong and you could fire a puck off the back of it." I mean, it's a creative goal. So, sick. Like, a weird goal is going to be a weird goal, and I don't want to harp on Stuart Skinner too much for it. But I will say, whenever Sam Reinhart is on the ice with Stuart Skinner, I don't know if a curse has been placed on Stuart via Sam Reinhart. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Things get weird when Sam Reinhart and Stuart Skinner have to play each other. Whether Stu goes on a weird little walk, or he loses his positioning in the net, or he just gets kind of confused. I don't know what happens, but Sam Reinhart is an absolute. Just some goalies cannot stop some players, and that is the case for Stu Skinner and Sam Reinhart. That goal was man, I'm not going to call it a backbreaker, but it's pretty close to, especially after you had come from being down a goal to ripping up a 2-goal lead, and now you've kind of whizzed it all away with that one. But Sam Reinhart. His career is so baffling and weird. And truly, I think, indicative of the horror show that is the Buffalo Sabres. And that sucks because Buffalo Sabres fans, I've never met one that A, I don't like, who's just really interesting, and B, I've never met one that's not like smart and loves their hockey team and is just crushed by what is constantly happening since the Pagulas have taken over. So, I mean, that's a whole other time and that a whole other time on a different show. But Sam Reinhart with his 19% shooting percentage, you knew he was going to get on the board in some way, shape, or form. All the love in the world to Kasperi Kapanen. I am truly astonished that the second line of an NHL team contains Vasily Podkolzin and Kasperi Kapanen. That is baffling. In no universe should that be a thing. But hey, their center is Leon Draisaitl, and he is, I think now, will be the leading scorer in the NHL this year after his game. So, Kapanen's starting to get the worm is starting to turn for him a little bit. I hope this goal can be the start of a couple more. I mean, you saw after Pod scored a couple games ago that he really started to push a little bit more, and really it's just bad luck that's kept the puck from going in for him since. Kapanen, even going back to his time with the Maple Leafs, has always been a, wow, that guy's fast. Shame he can't do anything else. But when he's playing at his best, he's just he's not really trying to play with skill. It's just playing with speed and heart, and that's really what you can ask for, and that's why he ended up getting that goal. Brett Kulak assisting on it. Brett Kulak putting in another really, really, really good performance here tonight, I'll say. And then the final goal of this game, who else but Carter Verhaeghe, assisted by Sam Bennett and Nico Mikkola. Man, it's just Carter Verhaeghe rocks. He's awesome. And the Oilers are awesome. And the Panthers are awesome. And I really want to critique this game and pick it apart and tell you all the reasons why the Oilers didn't win and how Florida's just a better team and how everything's changed for the finals. But I can't do that because this game literally could have gone either way. There were 4 moments where the puck somehow magically just didn't get past Bobrovsky by, again, some weird tesseract or force field has been able to put together, which is awesome. Good for you, Bob. Because you either stop it with your little Bob body or you stop it with ancient Russian magics. And the Russian magic's paid out because somehow the goal stays out again. So as we want to break down this game and be bummed, I mean, one thing that I think is such a great sign is the Oilers won the face-off battle tonight, which is not something that you see very often. 57-43, which is just an awesome stat to see. For years the Oilers were brutal at winning faceoffs anyway. Leon Draisaitl was good in the dot, and Henrique good, even Connor McDavid won a few. Honestly, now that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins doesn't take faceoffs for this team, that's a good stat to see. Did Stuart Skinner let out a couple stinkers? Sure. Was one of them also very weird? Yeah, and are both of these teams also just awesome? Kinda, yeah. So I want to be bummed, but this game could have gone either way. And if this is a preview of what another Stanley Cup final could be, because you saw the venom and you saw the teeth start to come out, I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at it at all. Because I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun whenever we get there and whenever the playoffs start to figure themselves out. We move into our final segment of the show. If you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions, things you want to get out of your chest, please put it in the chat now. Would love to hear from you. As we do that, I want to tell you about LaRoche. It's a kind of a, think of it like Patreon. We do have a Patreon as well. You can find both of these over at thegameovernetwork.com. LaRoche specifically is a really cool one because it's specifically designed for companies based in Quebec like ours is. And if you reach a certain funding goal and reach a certain point, it actually unlocks all these other things that will let us hire new staff and put on more shows and make more content for you. And if you have just like a couple of bucks to donate to that, that would mean the absolute world. Money's tight. I know it's rough out there right now. I get it, especially around the holidays. But any little thing you can do really does mean the world to us and our tiny little media company wanting to platform more and different and interesting voices, as many as we can. Whether they're we just want to have different people on the air normally than you see at a whole lot of other places. I am aware. I say that as a pretty think of a guy on the internet that talks like sports. Spoiler alert: a lot of times they look like me, but we have so many wonderful different perspectives and talents across the network, and want to find more of those in places that maybe other folks aren't necessarily looking for. So if you can donate a little bit through LaRouche or Patreon, we're putting together some very cool experiences in the new year where people can come maybe host shows with us, host their own podcast with us. Whatever. If you have ideas for cool experiences you would like through LaRouche or through Patreon, let us know via Discord, Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever you social media your time. It means a lot. We're a tiny growing company, and we can grow a little bit more with some of your help. If you have any final thoughts, feelings, emotions about this game that you'd like to throw in the chat, please do so now. Would love to hear some of your opinions and your ideas. I'm scrolling through kind of Oilers Twitter right now. One of the big things is that people are a little grumpy about Evan Bouchard. And, man, good comes to the bad with Evan Bouchard. He's still a 23-year-old defenseman putting his things together. Let him score his way out of his troubles. If he makes some mistakes, it happens. This was a kind of a messy game. None of the goalies were really locked in, and it made for really, really, really fun hockey from two pretty awesome teams. One thing I am a little bit kind of bummed about is the Oilers. The Oilers bottom six. We kind of did have some moments where they weren't at their best, and our top six performed incredibly. Our bottom six had some moments where they did get some scoring, they did put up some points, but they're still a little shaky. One great thing though that we're seeing, and we see in the chat after every single one of these stupid Amazon Prime games, is that thank God they're almost over. The Oilers only have one game on Amazon Prime left, which is awesome. I didn't like the style of calls tonight. I don't get why they keep trotting out Mark Messier. I don't think he's very good. Did he say anything tonight that was really groundbreaking? No. Did Amazon Prime do anything really fascinating with the coverage tonight? No. It felt like I miss Jack. I miss Gene. A lot of people were syncing it to the radio, and I totally get why. Because the broadcast tonight definitely felt like it was a lot to be desired. So thankfully, only one more, and then we'll have these all behind us. Oilers' schedule for the next little bit, they have a couple days off, but we will be back here on Game Over Edmonton, breaking down the Thursday night game as the Oilers and the Boston Bruins go at it. Then they have a 2 o'clock matchup against the San Jose Sharks. Going back to back on weekends, I don't love ever. Thankfully, it's an afternoon game to an evening game as the Senators come into town on Sunday, and then that'll be it for the Christmas break. Then the Oily Boys will be back with a game against the Kings on December 28th. So the Boston Bruins are kind of a mess of a team. They're not what we wanted them to be, not what we thought they'd be. That should be a very winnable game. The Sharks should absolutely be winnable. That being said, I'm very stoked for Macklin Celebrini to make his first trip into Edmonton, I think, this year. And then a crossover episode with our pals over at Game Over Ottawa is going to be a lot of fun coming up on Sunday. Quick scope of the standings. before we wrap this one up here, your Edmonton Oilers are officially in third place in the Pacific Division, 1 point back of the Los Angeles Kings, with the Kings having one game in hand. They are 5 points behind the Golden Knights, the same number of game played. You gotta think this team is gunning for Vegas. You gotta think that's the plan and the hope and the goal. Canucks are now 3 points back. The Flames are 3 points back. I know the Flames won their last game, but they're still 3-5-2 in their last 10. That team's goal differential is -11, which feels a little gross. Still early, but we'll get there. I'm assuming the Flames are going to fall out of it fairly soon here. Canucks will stick with it, but it looks like it's going to be Edmonton, Los Angeles, and Vegas chopping it out for the Pacific Division. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Have yourself a wonderful evening, my friend. Thank you for joining us here on Game Over Edmonton. If you like the show, please share it with a friend, and we will get to some more of your thoughts, opinions, your emotions immediately after the Oilers and the Boston Bruins do battle coming up on Thursday. I'm Graham Mosimann. You can find me wherever you find people on the internet. My handle is @GrahamMosimann on literally everything. Have yourself a wonderful night. We'll talk soon here on Game Over Edmonton, a presentation of the Game Over Network.